Hello friends, welcome again to One Academy. This is the third part of the governance issues lecture, and we are going to cover a very important topic with regards to not only GS paper 2 but also again for essay, because everything is important for essay, and also your general knowledge, because e-governance is a very up and coming topic, and when you join the services you will use it in a very in a regular fashion. So we'll learn this topic today, and I'll request you to please take note while watching this lecture, because sometimes I'm unable to provide notes on my website is34.com. If I'm not doing that, please pause my video and take notes and revise it from there, or you can come back and watch my video. You can save it in a playlist. What is e-governance? E-governance is nothing but functions of governance through ICT. What is governance? We have already discussed in the previous lecture. Governance kya hai? It's a process of decision making in the government and implementing projects. Right? If you don't know what governance is, we have discussed it in previous lecture. Please go and watch. Now, important part here is through ICT. What is ICT? Some of you may know ICT is information and communication technology. Information and communication technology. Let's just briefly understand this. You are seeing this picture to the right of your screen. These are the components of ICT. What are the components? Software. For example, to run any task, you need a software, a program to run it. So that software development is part of it. Hardware, of course, the machine. For example, computers, data storage, CPUs. Then transaction. Transaction means what? Not only money transaction, which also happens. For example, UPI and Bheem. But any kind of transaction. You are exchanging files, right? You are sending videos. You are doing video conferencing. All these are transactions through electronic medium. That is why e-governance and ICT. Communication technology. Of course, it's a communication technology. Without communication, there's no meaning of ICT. And then data storage, data retrieval. Retrieval means what? Getting back. You store the data, you get back the data in a readable format. That is called data retrieval. And internet access, of course. Without internet, none of this is happening unless you are operating in a local area. So finally, very important thing these days, cloud computing. Cloud computing, friends, does not mean, I'm sure you know, that computing through the actual clouds. It's basically integrated services where your data or your computing can be done anywhere in the world just by plugging into it through internet. So what are the benefits of ICT? The benefits of ICT are multiple, and without this, governance these days is impossible. So number one is efficient, both in terms of space and time. This is not Einstein space and time. This is actual space and time. It saves your space. अगर आप फाइल में स्टोर करते हैं वो डेटा, तो it takes hell lot of space. And what it does, the ICT, it reduces the space required. It reduces the time required to retrieve the data, to store the data, right? So data storage and retrieval becomes efficient. Next, faster data transmission. Of course, if I want to send a letter, earlier the communication used to happen via post from here to Delhi government. If I want to send, it will take days. But close to rational decision as info base is wider. Now your information is more because of this more data retrieval, faster data retrieval, and more data storage. You have more information base to take decision on. We as administrators, we have always to take decision every day, and that decision has to be based on not your presumptions, not your prejudices, but only on data. So as much data, as much information is available, your decision will be as close to rational as possible. What is rational decision? Of course, decision based on actual facts, figures, and data and logic. Next, it promotes transparency as discretion is reduced, because now in the electronic system everything is systemized. आपने फाइल किसी को एप्लीकेशन दिया ऑफिस में जाके, that person can no longer keep it with him, because now it's e-office in many of the offices. So the file, everybody knows किसके पास है फाइल, for how many days it is pending with him, and who is keeping it with him. So the transparency increase, a lot of procedures become clear to people. So transparency, of course, increases in this case, and it promotes accountability. Accountability we have already discussed in the last lecture. So I hope you understand. Next, we'll see some of the important definitions of e-governance. We already learned that e-governance is nothing but conducting the functions of government governance through ICT, information and communication technology. But there are some definitions which are more or less same thing, but two important definitions, one by the World Bank, another by UNESCO. You don't actually need to memorize it, but if you can memorize some of the key words which are highlighted here, then it becomes easier. Ultimately, if somebody asks you in the exam what is e-governance, you have to write in your own words, mind you. So the World Bank says it is used by government agencies of IT like wide area network, internet, mobile computing, that have ability to transform relations of whom? The government agencies with citizens, with businesses, and with other government arms too. So government within the departments, within the ministries they talk, within the offices they talk, that is also part of ICT, part of e-governance. And UNESCO, again the same thing, performance of governance via the electronic medium. Of course, electronic is very important in e-governance. E is electronic in e-governance, in order to facilitate an efficient, speedy and transparent process of two things: disseminating information to public and other agencies, and secondly performing government administration activities. So more or less similar definition, and you can clearly now understand and make your own definition. So what are the stages of e-governance implementation in any country? What you have to do? You start with your hardware purchase, and basically it's called computerization, and second part of hardware is networking. You have to buy computers, you have to connect them through networks so that they can talk to each other, right? So there are local area networks, wide area networks, and then World Wide Web, which is internet. Then you have to scan and upload retrospective or old data. What does it mean? For example, your office has been working since maybe independence, so all those files are lying there. If you do not digitize them, what if somebody asks for those old, for example, court case chal raha hai, and the court asks for some old data, so you'll have to again go through that file. So your e-governance is only half implemented, half is still normal snail governance, right? So you have to scan the old data and upload it in your new e-governance network, the computers. Then you have to come with your online presence. Once you have done your data digitization, that scanning and uploading is called digitization of data. So once you have done that, once you have put all the new data, also you have readied your software and everything, you have to go and become online. So that's why you see the websites of different ministries where you can get all kinds of information, and you can apply for different kind of schemes. So that online presence happens after that. And then there is online interactivity, which means interaction with different agents who want to come and do business with the government. Everybody basically. So citizens, they always interact with the government for different kind of because of course the citizens have given the government the right to govern this country, and that's why they have to interact with each other for different kind of services. Then businesses for different kind of approvals, proposals, tender, projects, all this kind of things are required for businesses to interact. And then other government offices, they have to talk to each other, because often people are collaborating across ministries and departments. So these are the stages of e-governance implementation. For example, Go Swift portal of Odisha for single window clearance of industrial projects, industrial proposals, which is a very successful e-governance project. Go Swift, you can go and learn about it a bit. And that's why it's one of the reasons why Odisha has become the #1 investment destination, even beating Maharashtra in the last 6 months. There are other examples also we'll learn in the later part of this lecture. So, okay, this is a repeat. Okay, next. These are the types of interactions that government does. #1 is G2C, which means government to citizen. See, citizen. Second type is government to citizen. Of course, you can think of all the examples, right? You all the time go and use government facilities or government services. Government to government also happens. The second type of interaction, when offices collaborate and talk to each other, um, or there are joint implementation of some kind of project, or clearance is required. For example, Ministry of Environment has to clear a lot of different projects, so industry has to send the proposal and get the project cleared. So all these are G to G. Then we come to G to B, government to business. We already discussed that. And then finally G to E, government to employees. Of course, government employees have to interact with the government to get their human resources benefits and everything. And also all kind of human resource management happens through G2E interaction. For example, performance appraisal, salary disbursement, any kind of benefits, any kind of pensions, all these are managed through G2E interactions. What are the advantages of e-governance? Let's see. 4 key advantages we'll talk here. One is access to information, right, which promotes transparency. We learned already the qualities of good governance. One of them is transparency, which is access to information. E-governance promotes this. How? It gives people knowledge about the rules, laws, schemes, procedures. You can go to any ministry's website and see the schemes and know who is eligible for what kind of scheme, what are the laws, what are the rules. And then you can also track the performance and progress report of different kind of projects which are displayed on the ministry's website. Second advantage of e-governance. Don't confuse advantages of e-governance with benefits of ICT. Benefits of ICT are general in nature. We had discussed that in the first 2 slides. These are advantages of e-governance. Efficient delivery of services. For example, single window clearance for anything. If you apply something in the government, earlier it used to take a lot of time. It will go from one desk to another officer, then it will come back, you don't know where the file is. You have to go and give money to somebody to know where the file is. So that has become easier now. Now it's a single window services that most of the states are implementing it. It saves time of both citizen and the government office, and also effort. You don't need to do chakkar of government office regularly. Then there is something called life cycle approach as per second ARC report. This is again very important keyword. You can quote it. This is from second ARC report. And friends, in all my lectures, because these are high quality lectures, I always use just the keywords which you also must use in your answers, and see how your number improves. So life cycle approach is what? All the services that a person requires from birth to death, all that can be covered through e-governance service delivery. That is life cycle approach. Okay. Next is business process reengineering. This again we discussed in the previous lecture. If you remember, business process reengineering is what? It is redesigning the process of business, how it is conducted in your office. It means simplification of process. If there are multiple layers of bureaucracy, you cut down to the minimum required level. So this kind of process simplification is also called BPR, is part of BPR. You also simplify structures, you simplify rules, everything that changes the process, the way business was conducted earlier. By business, of course, I mean the way offices function, not commerce wala business. And then you eliminate redundancy. This is again a very important word. Redundancy means what? A lot of people might know. Some of you might know that redundancy means if there is repetition of the same process, or for example, if you apply for 2-3 different things in one office, each time you have to fill all your name, all your data, all your address, father's name, this and that, every time. But in some offices, what they have done now, they create your database. If you have applied one time, that database is stored, and then next time when you apply, you don't have to give all the information again. You can just get it simply. So that is elimination of redundancy. So this is what business BPR is all about. Okay, so and the next advantage is that government comes at doorsteps of citizens. because with penetration of internet and mobile connectivity and internet access through mobile, now most of the people have access to government services. So this has pushed minimum government and maximum governance, and more citizen participation has been encouraged. More people can now take benefits, and increased reach both geographically and demographically, means more area is being covered and more people, demography, more people are being covered under the different kind of public service delivery. Okay, next also is a very important topic, and it's kind of related to current affairs, and you should know this: E-Governance Readiness Index. This was introduced by whom? By United Nations in 2008. These are all important things you should remember. And the score is given between 0 to 1. 0 is being the minimum and 1 being the maximum. What are the components? What is the method of preparing this index that UN uses? The methods are as follows. Number one, there are three components actually of this, of e-governance readiness index. Number one is web measure index. Web measure index is nothing but the coverage, sophistication and availability of e-services and e-products. The more number of e-products, I mean government services through electronic medium is available, the more number of people are covered, and the better quality. Sophistication means quality, better quality of service, e-service. So more of this available, the more is the web measure index. Second is telecommunication infrastructure index. This measures the penetration of telecommunication infrastructure, because more the penetration, better the penetration of e-governance will happen. So this is dependent on, again, certain factors, certain index whose composite is made to come out with telecommunication infrastructure index. Number one is internet user, number of internet users per 100%, personal computer numbers per 100%, then number of telephone lines per 100 persons. Mind you, this was made in 2008, so telephone lines was also there and mobile phones was also there. Maybe telephone lines will be removed because now hardly anyone keeps landlines, but so far it is there. Mobile phones per 100 persons, and finally broadband subscriptions per 100 persons. So these five very easy to remember, and you must remember. There might be MCQs on this, there might even be questions on this. So you can just pause this video here and take note of all these things. And third component of the readiness index is human capital index. You can read this: weighted average of adult literacy rate, which has 2/3 average, and the combined primary, secondary, tertiary gross enrollment ratio, which has 1/3 weightage. Gross enrollment ratio is how many kids who are eligible to go to school are actually going to school. So say if 100% of kids are going, then your ratio is 100. So that component forms 1/3 of the weight, and 2/3 of the weight comes from the adult literacy rate, and then this whole is taken and weighted average. Remember that this is what human capital index is. It basically means that how developed, how literate your human capital is, because unless citizen is more literate, amenable to using technology, there is no use of e-governance presence, because they will not be able to use it. Okay, so that is what e-governance readiness index is. Next we will learn how e-governance was implemented in India, and we'll just see the brief history of it. It's very interesting also, and you can just pause this video here and you can copy this table just to remember. You don't need to remember each and every detail, you can just remember some of the points, so that if somebody somewhere in the mains asks that how e-governance involved in India, or some essay is there, you can give it as a brief history. It will fetch a very good marks. It will give very good impression of your knowledge depth. So in the year 1970, Department of Electronics was set up in the Government of India. That was the first time. Then in 77, National Informatics Center, NIC, was established. And NIC is now the most important arm of Government of India, which implements all the e-governance projects. They are the designers of the software. They maintain our cloud services. They conduct the video conferences. They do all sorts of things to make e-governance successful. It was set up in 1977. In the 1980s, in the early 80s, use of computer started, and that use of computer was not very sophisticated one in that time. So computer itself was not very sophisticated, and the internet was not prevalent. So only word processing was used, meaning typing and printing, typing and printing. In 1987, one very important thing happened, which is internet. The very rudimentary form of internet, baby form of internet came, called, we started NICnet. NIC is of course NIC, and net is for internet. So NICnet started, and it was satellite based network, not like these days where the network is based on either mobile towers or those huge undersea cables. These are more faster. In those days it was very slow, but still a form of network where you could actually call it a web, right, or internet. So that started in 1987, very landmark event, you should remember this. And 1990s, the DISNIC in district started. DISNIC is not nothing but district NIC, National Information Center, and these are so important in running the districts. I have been in training in different districts now, and I have seen that they have a very critical role in conducting any implementation of any e-governance projects. So their presence is in almost all the districts. So this started in 1990s. In 1998, Operation Knowledge was started by the government for computer literacy of the people, to increase the knowledge about computers and the IT literacy, right? In 99, the next year, Union Ministry of IT was set up. Earlier it was only Department of Electronics. Now a ministry altogether a ministry is set up. A lot of you do not understand what ministry and department is. In the central government, ministry is the topmost, and under ministry there might be multiple departments, right? In the state government, there are no ministries as such. In state government, each ministry is actually called the department. Understood? So Department of Electronics was set up in 1970. That became the Ministry of Information Technology in 1999, and the very next year in 2000, two important things happened. One was 12-point e-governance agenda was adopted, and the IT Act came into picture, which gave legal recognition to online transactions, all the messages, text and WhatsApp and all these things, and transaction of money, all this came under the purview of IT Act. Next, major examples of e-governance in India. These are very easy to understand, nothing to explain here. You can just pause the video and take note of these examples so that you can use it in your answers. Bhumi and in Karnataka, and Bhulek in Odisha for land records, online digital land records application and delivery. Because land records क्या है तो होता है, you want to go and purchase a land, lot of frauds used to happen in that one person used to sell his land to 5 different people, but now it is all online, so people can not be defrauded, and the land record can be actually home delivered. In Odisha, we are actually home delivering land records to people. They don't have to come to office. So see how governance has improved. Then Go Swift in Odisha, I already discussed this. You can just go and find out more about it. MyGov.in, where citizens can share their ideas and give suggestions on policies. Often government asks for citizens' views on certain proposals. Then DigiLocker, you all know that you can store your documents there. UPI and Bhim, we use it every day. Friends program in Kerala, it's a single window for paying taxes and dues by the citizens to the government. And then GEM, it's called GEM, Government E-Marketplace. It is like Amazon, where the government can make purchases. So it has brought in a lot of transparency. Sellers can list their products, and government can choose which product they want to buy and float a tender, and then it becomes very transparent. Earlier tenders used to be fixed, so that has now been reduced. Okay. Finally, last slide, obstacles to e-governance implementation. In some cases, the governance implementation program, they do not succeed. वो pilot program होता है, pilot के बाद it does not get implemented in some cases. and initially there was more inertia. Now it's become easier to implement e-governance projects. But why was there an obstacle? Why is there an obstacle? Number one, because sometimes E is the focus, not the governance. What happens? Some people in the government, they are so, किसी भी बात पे they launch an app, or they want to launch an app because it's trendy. So but launching app is not the goal. The goal is to improve the governance. So E is the tool, governance is the goal, but sometimes E becomes the goal, and that creates a problem. There are no parallel reforms often in the organizational process. If the organization where you are going to implement the project, if you do not reform the organization itself, it is not going to accept that project or implement it well. So that often fails. And then there is lack of training and hand holding. In some cases it has improved nowadays, but if there is lack of training, then you see that people are working in a traditional way. They do not, they do not have the skills to adopt the new e-governance projects, and that becomes a major factor, in a major obstacle. So inertia also is a major factor. People have been working for 20-30 years in the same fashion, and they do not want to change because anybody is uncomfortable with change. So that also is sometimes an obstacle in implementation. Then there are self-interest of unscrupulous official, dishonest officials. Now if more transparency comes due to e-governance, their discretion reduces. Discretion means the ability to decide on your own volition, right? Where the rule is not very clear, it's a gray area, then the officer can take a decision whether to give that benefit or not give that benefit, or keep the file pending with him unless he's paid something. So that has reduced, but these kind of officials, they don't want to implement this. And then sometimes what happens, the project is imposed from above rather than something which has come as a demand from the office actually. So even in those cases, obviously, because it was not required in the first place, it fails. Friends, this is all you need to know about e-governance. I am ensuring you that you do not need to read any kind of book, any kind of material for this particular topic. I will love your feedback on the lecture and the way I am teaching you, whether you're liking it or not, whether you want me to change some ways, whether I am going too fast. Just let me know. And if it is good, then please let me know so that I make more and more videos. And I'll come up with some special tips regarding the mains examination. Please wait for it. Once I reach 1000 subscribers, I will share some very special tips which will be useful for your mains examination to fetch very high marks. Thank you so much.